"David, if you swallow this stone, I will give you sweets." The old woman held a small stone between her fingers and smiled at the little boy standing in front of her. The boy was only 4 years old. His name was David. David looked at the stone in his grandmother's hand. His small face showed confusion. His mother had always told him never to put stones in his mouth. But the old woman in front of him was his grandmother. Children are taught to trust their grandparents. And in the other hand, she was holding a small bowl filled with bright, colourful candies. "Come on, David," the old woman said softly. "Just swallow the stone. Then the sweets are all yours." The little boy looked at the candies again. His eyes shined with excitement. But something about this moment felt wrong. Why would a grandmother ask her own grandson to swallow stones? What kind of grandmother would do such a thing? And how did a family's love turn into something this dark? To understand this moment, we must go back to the beginning. David's mother was a young woman named Chioma. Chioma was kind, respectful, and hard-working. She had a calm voice and a gentle heart. People who met her usually liked her immediately. She fell in love with a man named Kunle. Kunle was tall, friendly, and responsible. He worked hard and cared deeply about his family. The two of them met during a work event in Lagos. What started as a simple conversation slowly turned into something stronger. Soon, they were spending more time together. They laughed together. They shared dreams about the future, and before long, they both knew they wanted to spend their lives together. But love does not always make life easy. Kunle came from a Yoruba family, while Chioma was Igbo. For Kunle, this difference did not matter. For his father, Papa Bode, it also did not matter. Papa Bode was a calm and wise man. He believed that what truly mattered in marriage was character, respect, and love. When Kunle introduced Chioma to his father, the old man smiled warmly. "My son," Papa Bode said gently, "if this woman makes you happy and she respects you, then she is welcome in this family." Chioma felt relieved when she heard those words. But not everyone felt the same. Kunle's mother, Mama Ronke, did not hide her feelings. From the first moment she saw Chioma, something inside her heart closed. She forced a smile, but her eyes showed her true thoughts. Later that night, she called Kunle into her room. "Is this the girl you want to marry?" she asked. "Yes, Mama," Kunle replied calmly. Mama Ronke shook her head slowly. "I already planned who you should marry," she said. Kunle looked confused. Mama Ronke had a close friend named Mama Sade. Their families had known each other for many years. Mama Sade had a daughter named Bisi. Bisi was quiet, respectful, and came from a wealthy family. In Mama Ronke's mind, the plan had always been simple. Kunle would marry Bisi. The marriage would make the two families even closer, and everyone would be happy. At least, that was what she believed. But life does not always follow the plans people make. Kunle looked at his mother and spoke gently. "Mama, I respect you, but I love Chioma." Mama Ronke's face became serious. "You do not understand," she said. "This girl is not from our people." Kunle sighed. "Mama, she is a good person." But Mama Ronke was not ready to listen. For weeks, she tried to change her son's mind. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she warned him. Sometimes she refused to speak to him. But Kunle did not change his decision. His father, Papa Bode, watched everything quietly. One evening, he spoke to his wife. "Ronke," he said calmly, "our son is a grown man. Let him choose the woman he loves." Mama Ronke did not like hearing those words. In her heart, she felt like something was being taken away from her. It felt as if Chioma was stealing her son. Eventually, the wedding day arrived. Kunle and Chioma got married in a beautiful ceremony filled with family and friends. Music played. People danced. Food was everywhere. Papa Bode smiled proudly, but Mama Ronke only forced a smile. Inside her heart, a storm was quietly growing. After the wedding, Kunle and Chioma started their new life together. And something happened that made Mama Ronke's heart burn even more. Kunle loved his wife deeply. He treated Chioma with care and respect. He bought her beautiful dresses. He took her to nice restaurants. Sometimes they traveled together for vacations. Everywhere Kunle went, Chioma was beside him. They laughed together. They looked happy. And every time Mama Ronke saw them, she felt the same painful thought. My son no longer belongs to me. 3 years passed. Instead of healing, the bitterness inside Mama Ronke's heart grew stronger. Then something new happened in the family. Chioma gave birth to a baby boy. The boy's name was David. David was a cheerful child. He had bright eyes and a loud, happy laugh. Whenever he laughed, the whole house felt alive. Kunle loved his son deeply. Whenever he came home from work, the first thing he did was pick David up and hug him. Papa Bode adored his grandson, but Mama Ronke, her feelings were complicated. Sometimes she played with the boy. Sometimes she carried him, but deep inside her heart, the old bitterness had not disappeared. One afternoon, Mama Ronke was sitting outside her house with her friend, Mama Sade. They often sat together like this, talking about family and life. But many times, their conversations turned to Chioma. Mama Sade shook her head slowly. "That woman has completely taken your son," she said. Mama Ronke sighed deeply. "I wish he had married Bisi," she replied. Mama Sade leaned closer and lowered her voice. "You know," she whispered, "sometimes life has a way of fixing things." Mama Ronke looked confused. "What do you mean?" Mama Sade looked around carefully before speaking again. "What if something happens to the child?" Mama Ronke's eyes widened. "What kind of thing?" Mama Sade's voice became even quieter. "If little David dies," she said slowly, "Kunle will blame Chioma. Their marriage may break." Mama Ronke quickly shook her head. No, that is too much. He is my grandson." Mama Sade shrugged. "I am just saying, sometimes problems solve themselves." The conversation ended, but something dangerous had already happened. A dark idea had entered Mama Ronke's mind. That night, she lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. Her thoughts kept moving in circle. She thought about her son. She thought about Chioma. She thought about how everything had changed. The dark idea from earlier returned again and again. She tried to push it away, but each time it came back stronger. Days passed. Then, one quiet Saturday morning, something important happened. David was now 4 years old. That day, he did not have school. Chioma was preparing to go to the market. Before leaving, she walked to Mama Ronke. "Mama," Chioma said politely, "please watch David for me. I will return soon." Mama Ronke smiled softly. "Do not worry," she said. "He is safe with me." Chioma thanked her and left the house. She felt calm because she believed her son was in good hands. But the moment Chioma walked out of the gate, Mama Ronke slowly stood up. She called softly, "David, come here, my dear." The little boy ran happily toward her. Mama Ronke went inside the house and returned with a small bowl of sweets. Colorful candies filled the bowl. David's eyes became wide with excitement, but beside the sweets were small stones she had quietly picked from outside. Mama Ronke knelt down beside the boy. "David," she said gently, "if you swallow these stones, I will give you all these sweets." David blinked in confusion. "But Mommy said it is bad to put stones in the mouth," he said innocently. Mama Ronke smiled again. "Nothing will happen," she said. "You are a brave boy." David looked at the sweets again. He loved candies very much. Slowly, he reached down and picked up one of the small stones. He looked at his grandmother. Then he slowly lifted the stone toward his mouth, and a moment later, the stone was inside his mouth. He was about to swallow it. David stood there quietly. The small stone was already inside his mouth. Mama Ronke watched him closely. Her eyes were fixed on the little boy's face. She tried to look calm, but inside her heart was beating very fast. The bowl of colorful sweets was still in her hand. "Go on, David," she said softly. "Just swallow it." David did not move immediately. The stone felt strange inside his mouth. It was hard and rough. He had never put something like that in his mouth before. He looked at the sweets again. They looked very sweet and delicious. But then he remembered something. His mother's voice. "David, never put stones in your mouth. It can hurt you." The little boy slowly removed the stone from his mouth. He looked at his grandmother. "Grandma," he said innocently, "Mommy said it is not good." For a moment, Mama Ronke felt irritated. Why was the boy refusing? "David," she said again, trying to sound patient, "nothing will happen to you. You are strong. If you swallow the stones, you can have all the sweets." She shook the bowl slightly so the candies made a small rattling sound. The colorful sweets looked very tempting. David hesitated. He was only 4 years old. At that age, children easily believe adults. Slowly, he picked up another small stone. This time, he placed it inside his mouth again. Mama Ronke watched him carefully. Her breathing became slower. "Good boy," she whispered. David tilted his head slightly. He was about to swallow. But suddenly, the front gate opened. The loud creaking sound of the metal gate broke the quiet moment. Mama Ronke turned her head quickly. Someone was entering the compound. It was Papa Bode. The old man had returned earlier than expected from the small shop he owned in the neighborhood. As he walked into the compound, he saw something strange. David was standing near Mama Ronke. The boy had something in his mouth, and Mama Ronke was watching him very closely. Papa Bode frowned. "David!" he called. The little boy quickly turned his head. The stone was still inside his mouth. "Come here, my boy," Papa Bode said. David ran toward his grandfather happily. But as he ran, Papa Bode noticed something unusual. "Open your mouth," he said gently. David opened his mouth. Immediately, Papa Bode saw the stone. His face changed. "Spit it out," he said quickly. David spat the stone into his hand. Papa Bode stared at the small stone with shock. Then he looked toward his wife. Mama Ronki, what is this? Mama Ronki felt a sudden wave of fear. Her hands trembled slightly. Oh, he must have picked it from the ground, she said quickly. But Papa Bode was not convinced. He looked at the bowl in her hand, the sweets. Then he looked at the ground. There were several small stones nearby. His eyes slowly narrowed. Ronki, he said slowly, what is going on here? Mama Ronki did not answer. Her silence made the situation even more uncomfortable. Papa Bode knelt down beside David. My boy, he said gently, who gave you that stone? David looked up innocently. Grandma said if I swallow the stones, she will give me sweets. For a moment, everything became completely silent. The words hung in the air like heavy clouds. Papa Bode slowly stood up. His face showed deep shock. He looked at his wife with disbelief. Ronki, is this true? Mama Ronki could not speak. Her eyes dropped to the ground. The truth was already clear. Papa Bode felt anger rising inside him. But more than anger, he felt deep sadness. How could you do this? He asked quietly. That is your own grandson. Mama Ronki finally spoke, her voice shaking. I did not mean to hurt him. But you told him to swallow stones, Papa Bode replied. Tears began forming in Mama Ronki's eyes. The weight of what she had almost done suddenly became very real. I was angry, she whispered. I felt like Chioma took my son away from me. Papa Bode shook his head slowly. Ronki, he said, love is not something that can be stolen. At that moment, the front gate opened again. Chioma returned from the market earlier than expected. She walked into the compound carrying a small bag of groceries. Immediately, she sensed something was wrong. Papa Bode looked serious. Mama Ronki looked distressed. And little David was standing quietly beside them. What happened? Chioma asked nervously. Papa Bode sighed deeply. He explained everything. As Chioma listened, her hands slowly began to tremble. She looked at her son. Then she looked at Mama Ronki. Tears filled her eyes. I trusted you, she said softly. Mama Ronki could not look at her. Shame filled her heart. In that moment, she realized how far her hatred had pushed her. She had almost caused something terrible, something that could never be undone. Mama Ronki slowly walked toward Chioma. Then she did something no one expected. She knelt down. I am sorry, she said through tears. I allowed anger to control my heart. Chioma stood silently for a moment. The pain in her heart was real, but she also saw something in Mama Ronki's face. Regret, real regret. Papa Bode gently placed his hand on his wife's shoulder. We must protect this family, he said quietly, not destroy it. Mama Ronki nodded slowly. She looked at David. The little boy was playing with a small toy on the ground, unaware of how close danger had come to him. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She realized something important. Hatred had almost made her destroy the very family she should have been protecting. That day changed everything. From that moment forward, Mama Ronki made a decision. She would no longer allow bitterness to control her heart. It was not easy. Healing never happens overnight, but slowly things began to change. Mama Ronki began treating Chioma with kindness. She helped care for David. She stopped listening to negative advice from others. And little by little, Peace returned to the family. Years later, when David grew older, he would sometimes sit with his grandparents and laugh together. The dark moment from the past became a painful memory, but also a powerful lesson. Because sometimes the most dangerous enemy is not another person. Sometimes the enemy is anger and jealousy inside our own hearts. Moral lessons from the story. 1. Hatred can destroy families. When people allow jealousy and bitterness to grow in their hearts, they can begin to think about doing things they would normally never imagine. 2. Bad advice can lead people into darkness. Mama Ronki almost made a terrible decision because she listened to the wrong person. 3. Children trust adults completely. That is why adults must always protect them and guide them carefully. 4. Love should unite families, not divide them. Marriage should bring families together, not create enemies. 5. It is never too late to change. Even after making a serious mistake, a person can still choose to do what is right and rebuild trust. And sometimes, one moment of truth can save an entire family.